Let's talk about open house signs because we've had a lot of issues lately and realize there's not a lot of great resources available online for agents. So, what's allowed? How do you avoid a $250 fine from what's not allowed? Let's cover it here. So, I'm going to share my screen and kind of go over the most common stuff. So, in the associate shared folder, we have in the reference guides these kind of summary documents on open houses in Edmonton, St. Albert, and Strathcona County. So they're a bit dated. They're back in 2015, but they're still current. So we'll talk about what's allowed, what's not allowed. So this summarizes, to give you some perspective, uh, all of the various signs that are allowed in Edmonton, City of Edmonton. Most municipalities have similar for businesses, parking signs, election sign examples, home builder signs, digital billboards, advertising. There's a lot of kind of signage that we see every day. It's why we all get bombarded with literally thousands of advertising messages on a daily basis. But portable signs are what we're talking about with open houses and the like. So there's certain restrictions of what's allowed with a portable sign. It's the download off City of Edmonton is the full bylaw is bylaw 5590. It falls under traffic bylaw. So if you're really bored one night and want to read 53 pages of bylaws, you can do that. This top section of the City of Edmonton one refers to like freestanding signs for businesses. So like they're putting it in front of their storefront, like their business frontage. The bottom section kind of summarizes open houses, and the board created this document a couple years ago that helps clarify. So you can either be mounted on an A-frame or a stake putting it into the ground. So to give you those examples, these are the types that you see that Remax has. Oops, I lost it. Shoot. I'll go back to that. But Remax has a bunch of different examples that you can do for open houses. I'll just fly through this here and find it again right there. So there's lots of different options, the A-frame sort of style or the solid frame or ones that stake into the ground. And there's really a lot of creativity you can do there as long as it has the main criteria, which we'll go through. So uh, the message has four pieces: open house, directional arrow, your company identification, so the brokerage name for it to comply with RICA as well, and your name to comply with RICA. And so these four messages, the message is consistent with the following numbers one and two being prominent. So it has to say open house with an arrow, that being the main thing. The purpose is to guide motorists to open house locations and for you to get leads and brand awareness and all the other reasons we do it. But you want to avoid those $250 fines per sign if they're in the wrong locations, is the most common thing we see happening. So the sign has to basically be a minimum size and thickness and maximum. So a maximum size face of 0.6 meters wide by 1 meter high and constructed of a material of a minimum of 6 millimeters thickness. So that is so that it doesn't blow away in the wind or hit someone's car or cause an accident because you're putting these at intersections most of the time. When can you put up signs? You can put them up from 3 o'clock on Friday to 10 p.m. on Sunday, or stat holiday Monday. So you can put it up a whole weekend to promote an open house that's happening that weekend, or you can put it up during Monday to Thursday from 3 to 10 p.m. So technically, if we've had a lot of people do really good success with noon open houses, lunchtime open houses, things like that. You technically can't do it on a weekday at those times. So just know you're taking a risk if someone complains to bylaw. Um, Number of signs. No more than two signs may be located at each intersection. That includes signs of all companies and is designed to avoid unsightly clutter. So the main thing I always remind people about with these is it's not just us, right? It's not just realtors, it's also home builders, it's also businesses and pizza shops and whatever in the local area. They too are not allowed to do those unless they're doing an open house, like an event. And then they can seek bylaw and get permits to have up temporary signage like that. If they're doing something, they pay for those temporary permits. But keep in mind that it's two signs all companies. So if someone else already has a sign up on doing an open house that day, you run the risk of somebody getting the bylaw fine or both potentially. So take pictures sometimes is if you're in competition with someone else for an open house that day, take a picture to show that like yours was there first or whatever. It's a good backup because you have timestamp on that. Signs must not be located closer than 15 meters from an intersection on local roadways. Um, it can't be closer than 30 meters on arterial roadways. So that's like kind of like freeway type roadways. Um, Signs cannot be placed on public sidewalks. Signs cannot be placed on center medians. And under no circumstances can a sign be erected as attached to any roadway sign or light standard. No sign can interfere with the proper vision or identification of roadway signs, obviously for driver safety. In the event of conflicts or unforeseen problems, the city reserves the right to request removal of any sign. And you can, a sign not complying with the above will be subject to immediate removal by the city and a fine applied to the real estate company identified in the sign. And the process for removal is the contact city bylaw. They now have a website where people can submit those. And currently, as of the date of this video, which is July 21st, 2025, is a bylaw offense with a fine of $250 per sign. And so they talk about posters, sandwich boards, open house, temporary, and election signs that are left up outside of the specific rules that are to do with elections. So hopefully that's clear. And I wanted to give a couple examples. And we've had the most issues in Summerside because there's a lot of residents in that area, including one of our realtors, actually a few of our realtors that do work in the area. But there's a lot of residents, I live in Summerside myself, that report to bylaw. And because they're trying to keep like sign pollution from the area because there's so much of it between businesses and real estate and otherwise. So let's use the intersection of Parsons, 91st Street that turns into Summerside Gate. So let's say you had an open house backing onto the green space here that backs onto the lake. You really want to get a lot of traffic in there and promote your open house. So you could put up signs on this intersection that leads into Summerside. You could put them on the public land here, as long as it's 15 meters back from the intersection. You could also put them on public land here, but it can't be on the walkway or sidewalk. And if you wanted to put a sign on the opposite side of the road, say where the daycare is here, that's deemed public property. So if you're like, oh, I want to put it right on this little corner where the daycare is, if that's on their property, you have to seek their permission to put it on their property because it's private property. Where can you not put signs? You can't put it on this meridian saying straight ahead or turn here. You can't put it on any signage along these center boulevards. And then let's say you now are turning into the intersection of the neighborhood and you want to put one right here on the corner to direct people here on these corners. Well, there's a sidewalk here. So in the boulevard section between the sidewalk and the public street, that's technically city property in almost every case around the city. But if you want to put it on this person's front yard, that's this person's front yard. So what do you do in that scenario? You go door knock on their door, let them know that their neighbor has the house for sale and you're trying to help find them a great new neighbor and ask their permission to put an open house sign up. That's private property. So you never have to worry about those getting reported to bylaw because bylaw will say, well, that's on private property, private land. It's up to that individual to do what they will with that. I have always had good success also if you keep memo pads or some kind of branded piece of paper, and then you write a handwritten note. If they're not home, put the sign out if you're trying to promote it. Know you're taking that risk of it's the person's private property. They can do whatever they want with your sign that was left on their property, but leave a note. And I've had people come back and say, thank you so much. I saw them when I was driving past the listing at one point and said, no one has ever asked to put a sign up on our lawn. You're the first realtor who's ever asked, and they were on a prominent corner. I remember this one exchange with a seller, and then asked for my card. If we ever look to sell, I'd like to keep your contact information. So respect other residents. It's not a right to put up all these signs. We have to operate within common courtesies as well as just being a good community member and a good neighbor, right? So you could put a sign here as long as it's 15 meters back, here as long as it's 15 meters back, but that'd be it. So you could have a maximum of two per intersection. So can I put one here? No, that's deemed a boulevard or like a meridian. Can I put one on this corner, and this one? No. It's two per intersection. This would, even if it was on private property, you can't have like three at an intersection. And then the open house that you put on the property itself is fine. That's on private property as well. So hopefully that helps clarify. The most common other scenario are traffic circles. You can't have them like anywhere in the middle of the traffic circle or anywhere like that. And as long as you kind of know the rules and know the timelines of when you can do it, you're safe, right? You can put up marketing, you can maximize the exposure you get on your listings and for your open houses, and make sure you don't end up with a $250 bylaw infraction per sign. And usually it's difficult to get your signs back, or even worse, your signs get damaged because bylaw just piles them in a truck if and when they come. Or sometimes you get residents that just take it upon themselves to remove the signs because they don't want to wait for bylaw, and bylaw makes the submittal process a bit cumbersome because you have to take photos and a few things. And so, no, if you're taking that risk, it's a risk and you might lose the signs. So our goal, as always, try to keep you educated, keep you following the rules, leading by example, and avoiding any fines or penalties or added costs, because we all know we don't need those in our business. And there's lots of positive ways you can market properly to expose your open houses.